unjust embargo of Cuba, to end the ban on travel to Cuba, to normalize relations between our two countries, and to release from prison the 5 valiant Cuban men who are unjustly imprisoned for defending their imprisoned for defending their country against numerous terrorist attacks that were promoted and organized by the U.S. government for many decades. And so it is my pleasure to read for you tonight a greeting from the Cuban Communist Party to the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism. The greeting is dated July 23rd, 2009. Dear friends and comrades, you're having your important event at a crucial moment of change, where Latin America is the best example of the complete failure of neoliberalism, and where desperate and cruel measures are being brought back from a bloody past while the rest of the world is witnessing a real economic nightmare that is shaking the grounds of capitalism. As it has faced for 50 years, Cuba still faces today, under a new administration, huge challenges and dangers. To the genocidal policy of blockade, we can add that criminals like Luis Posada Cadile still walk free, and planned acts against our revolution in Miami, Florida. While 5 courageous anti-terrorists, known as the Cuban 5, have been deprived of their freedom for more than 10 long years and subjected to cruel and unusual treatment that has violated their human rights, including the denial of visas to the wives of Gerardo and Renee, who have not been permitted to enter the U.S. to visit them. The 5 must be liberated immediately. Sorry about that. I'm getting over a cold. In Cuba, despite of the economic blockade and after the terrible blows of powerful hurricanes created in most part because of the rapid climate changes caused by predatory countries who for centuries have never thought about the future of our planet Earth. Our people have advanced dramatically in building a new human being, a better society, and cooperating closely with our brothers and sisters in Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia to improve their lives. In this regard, we appreciate also your unconditional solidarity in our struggle for independence and justice in face of the imperialist aggressions that our people have been resisting and defeating heroically and successfully for years. Let us fight together to build bridges of friendship, peace, and cooperation between the peoples of the United States and Cuba. The CCDS has a long experience and hundreds of good people also working for a better future and another world. Together we will continue our efforts to eliminate racism, injustice, look after climate change, and for respect equality, and sovereignty. Thank you for your braveness, solidarity, and unconditional support for Cuba and against the blockade, which has been overwhelmingly rejected by the United Nations, and for the freedom of our 5 brothers, who from the coldness of an unjust prison are teaching us a real example of resistance, courage, and patriotism. Wishing you a fruitful and successful convention. We reiterate our feelings of brotherhood with the Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism and our strong conviction that we will keep on working to strengthen our unconditional ties. With the revolutionary and solidarity embrace, Jose Alberto Prieto, First Secretary, Cuban Intersection, Washington, D.C. Now, I've been asked to open with a few remarks on the topic around which the symposium has been organized, and I'm going to keep them very, very short, just a couple of minutes. Building socialism in the 21st century. The topic might also be building socialism in the aftermath of the global economic crisis. Or we might talk about building socialism in the wake of the Obama presidency. Of course, many people assumed some years ago that with the collapse of the socialist community of nations in the last decade of the 20th century, all prospects of socialism expired. Capitalism was the way of the future. But as we watch the rise of neoliberalism and the economic policies and practices that were designed to get rid of state-supported social services that met the needs of people who need housing and education and health care, etc. Many of us realized then that if capitalism was going to be the way of the future, its juggernaut of privatization would destroy human beings all over the world, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. I think we also realize that those people who have been most damaged by the recent global financial crisis are poor people in Africa, in Asia, the Caribbean, and Latin America. Capitalism has become so brazen that its face becomes a figure like Bernie Madoff. I was just thinking, I remember, back in the day when the Black Panthers used to talk about the avaricious capitalists. And that was during a period when capitalism was sort of a bad word. Capitalists didn't necessarily identify with the word. They did not self-identify with capitalists. But now, of course, we have seen the real face of capitalism in this country with the subprime mortgages, the taking advantage of the persistence of racism. And I think we know that Obama was elected in part because of that crisis. Now, during the campaign, there were very interesting discussions about socialism, or perhaps the beginning of discussions, or perhaps allusions to socialism. And there was a time when any mention of socialism would have prevented any positive reaction